The kitchen clock struck 6:20 in the morning when Clara opened her eyes. It was still dark. The kind of darkness that is not just an absence of light, but of movement, of expectation, of voices. The house remained in absolute silence, broken only by the distant cracking of cooling wood and the rhythmic hum of the old refrigerator, which seemed to breathe with difficulty. She sat up slowly in bed, her feet touching the cold floor. The winter of that December was not harsh, but the cold seemed to come from within. A cold that settled in the chest and spread like a memory that refuses to leave. Clara had lived alone for years. The house was small, simple, and overly organized, as if every object were there to occupy the space of something missing. On the living room wall, a clock that had been stopped for months. On the shelf, books half-read. On the table, a folded red tablecloth, tucked away since the last Christmas that had made sense. She walked to the kitchen, put water on to boil, and stood watching the steam rise slowly. The smell of coffee spread through the room, but it brought no comfort. It only confirmed the routine. Every day the same. The mornings the same. The silence the same. Outside, some houses already displayed blinking lights. Colorful fairy lights, stars in the windows, exaggerated wreaths. Clara watched it all through a crack in the curtain with a strange sensation in her chest, a mixture of nostalgia and distance. As if Christmas were something that happened to others. She had always liked Christmas. Or at least she used to. There was a time when she believed that date had the power to fix things. To bring people together. To soften pain. But now, Christmas was just another reminder of what was no longer there. She sat at the table with the cup between her hands, seeking some warmth. She thought about the day beginning. She thought about the days to come. She thought about how everything seemed suspended, as if life had been on pause for a long time. The old radio, forgotten on top of the refrigerator, turned on by itself with a click. An old Christmas song began to play, low and scratchy. Clara closed her eyes for a moment. That melody brought something she wasn't prepared to feel. And it was there, on that ordinary morning, in that Christmas that approached without asking permission, that Clara felt, for the first time in a long time, that something was about to change. Clara didn't like looking back. Not because she didn't have good memories, but because the bad ones still hurt louder. Some wounds do not bleed. They settle in the silence, in what was left unsaid, in what had no goodbye. Years ago, that same house was noisy. Laughter echoing through the hallway, hurried footsteps, slamming doors. There was life. There were plans. There was someone calling her name from the kitchen, asking if she wanted more coffee. Miguel. The name always came accompanied by a tightening in her chest. He had been many things, a companion, a shelter, a promise. Together, they built a simple routine, yet full of meaning. They didn't have much, but they had presence. And that seemed like enough. The last Christmas they spent together still lived in Clara's memory like an old movie. The makeshift table, the simple food, the lights blinking somewhat crookedly. Miguel laughing, saying that it was a princess Christmas, because it didn't need luxury to be special. It was enough just to be there. Later, the arguments came. The exhaustion. Words spoken in the wrong tone. The ones that were never spoken at all. Clara believed there would always be time. Time to talk. To apologize. To adjust things. But time did not ask for permission. The absence arrived abruptly, leaving everything out of place. The house became too large. The days became too long. And Clara stayed there, trying to move forward, but carrying a silent guilt, the feeling that it could have been different. Since then, she began to avoid holidays. She avoided old photographs. She avoided specific songs. She even avoided thinking about hope. Because for her, waiting meant preparing to lose. On that late afternoon, sitting on the sofa, Clara held an old box found at the back of the closet. Inside were objects she never had the courage to throw away. A folded note. A yellowed photo. A small Christmas ornament, simple, with a faded red ribbon. She held the ornament for a long time. Her fingers trembled slightly. It wasn't just longing. It was regret. It was unresolved love. It was a Christmas that never properly ended. And as the sky darkened outside, Clara realized that the pain, ignored for so long, was about to be awakened again. The doorbell rang at 7 in the evening. Clara was startled. She didn't usually receive visitors, especially not at that time of year. She walked to the door with cautious steps, peeked through the peephole, and felt her heart race. On the other side was a young woman, wrapped in a simple coat, holding a small suitcase. Beside her, a girl with attentive eyes and a shy posture. Clara opened the door slowly. "Are you Clara?" the woman asked, her voice heavy with hesitation. Before Clara could answer, the girl took a step forward, holding the handle of the suitcase tightly. "He said you liked Christmas," she said, almost in a whisper. Those words pierced Clara like a shock. He. There was no need to ask who. The woman explained, between pauses and deep breaths. She said she had promised. She said she didn't know where to go. She said that this was the last address written down. The girl's name was Sophia. Clara felt the floor disappear beneath her feet. The past, which she believed buried, was there, breathing, looking at her, asking for space. Christmas, once again, did not ask for permission. The house had never felt so full and, at the same time, so fragile. Clara walked from one room to another like someone stepping on a freshly cracked floor. Every step required care. Every word seemed too heavy to come out. The sound of the boiling kettle filled the space that no one could occupy with conversation. The woman, Helena, sat at the table with her hands interlaced. Her gaze was steady but tired. There was no accusation in it. Only the exhaustion of someone who had to make difficult decisions alone. Sophia remained standing, watching everything in silence. The way she touched the furniture, as if asking the walls for permission, hit Clara in an unexpected way. That girl carried an ancient delicacy, almost too adult for her age. "He spoke of you often," Helena said after a long silence. The sentence hung in the air like something that cannot be taken back once spoken. Clara took a deep breath. She sat down slowly. I don't know what to say." "Sometimes you don't need to say anything," Helena replied. "Just not closing the door is already something." Sophia walked to the living room and stopped in front of the shelf. Her fingers touched an old photograph, framed, almost forgotten. Clara realized too late. "Is this my father?" the girl asked with shy curiosity. Clara's heart beat hard. She stood up, approached slowly, and nodded. Sophia gave a small smile. He looked happy. Clara felt her eyes sting. That word, happy, pierced her through. Because happiness, for her, always came accompanied by fear. Fear of losing. Fear of not knowing how to take care of it. The conversation ended without a conclusion. No agreements. No promises. Only the silent certainty that something had been opened, and could no longer be ignored. That night, Clara lay down without being able to sleep. The ceiling seemed lower, the past closer, and Christmas more inevitable. Dawn arrived gray, without delicacy. Clara woke up before everyone else and sat in the kitchen, her body hunched, her arms resting on the cold table. The coffee grew cold, untouched in the cup. The stopped clock on the wall seemed to mock the time she had wasted running away. Everything she tried to forget was now there, alive, present, looking at her through a child who was not to blame for anything. The guilt returned with full force. She remembered the times she chose pride, the postponed conversations, the constant idea that there would always be a later. She remembered how she believed that loving was too dangerous. The crying came restrained, almost respectful. There was no despair. There was tiredness. An old, accumulated tiredness that finally found space to exist. Clara felt small, incomplete, unworthy of new beginnings. Christmas, that morning, seemed like a cruel irony. Lights blinking in neighboring houses. Distant laughter. as if the world went on without noticing that inside her, everything was in ruins. She thought about asking Helena and Sophia to leave. She thought about returning to the familiar silence. She thought about protecting herself. But something stopped her. Perhaps it was the girl's gaze. Perhaps it was the weight of so many years running away. Perhaps it was just the exhaustion of no longer wanting to be strong alone. There, at the lowest point, Clara found no answers. She found only a simple and painful truth. She didn't want to live that way anymore. It was a simple gesture that changed everything. Sophia appeared in the kitchen with light steps, still in her pajamas, holding the small old ornament in her hands, the one Clara kept like a silent relic. "Can I use this?" she asked, without haste, without demand. Clara looked at the object, then at the girl. Something inside her broke, and at the same time, opened. "You can," she replied, almost in a whisper. The two walked to the living room. Sophia stood on her tiptoes and hung the ornament in the most visible spot on the shelf. It was crooked, imperfect. "It looks pretty like this," the girl said, satisfied. Clara felt an unexpected warmth in her chest. It wasn't full joy. It was permission. Permission to try. To not run away. Later, Helena commented in a low voice. "He used to say that Christmas didn't need to be perfect. It just needed to be real." Clara closed her eyes for a moment. For the first time in many years, she let a memory remain without pushing it away. The decision did not come as a grand moment. There was no striking phrase. There was no absolute certainty. It came as exhaustion. Clara was sitting on the edge of the bed, still dressed, her shoes forgotten on her feet. The room felt smaller that night. Not physically, emotionally. As if the walls had drawn closer, tired of guarding so many silences. She thought of Miguel. She thought about how she always believed that loving was something that required control. That if she kept enough distance, she could avoid the pain. But there, in that house inhabited once again, she realized how much that protection had cost her. In the kitchen, she heard Sophia laugh softly. A spontaneous, distracted laugh, like someone who hasn't yet learned to protect themselves from the world. That sound pierced through Clara with force. Because it brought no demand. Only presence. Clara stood up. She walked slowly to the living room. She found Helena folding some clothes in silence. There was no mood for speeches, nor for long explanations. "I'm not good at staying," Clara said after a while. The sentence came out raw, without embellishment. Helena looked up. She didn't interrupt. She just waited. "I was always better at leaving, even while staying," Clara continued. "But I don't want to do that again." The silence that followed was not uncomfortable. It was honest. "I was afraid too," Helena replied in a low voice. "I still am." The two looked at each other. Not as rivals. Not as strangers. But as women tired of carrying everything alone. That night, Clara promised nothing more than what she could fulfill, to stay the next day. And the one after. One day at a time. And that, for her, was already an act of courage. The following days taught Clara something new. Rebuilding is not remaking the past. It is learning to live in the present without running away. The routine gained small changes. Breakfast stopped being silent. The radio played again, now by choice. Sophia spread drawings across the table, like someone marking territory with delicacy. Clara observed everything closely. Sometimes with restrained joy. Sometimes with fear. Because every good thing still seemed too fragile to trust fully. One afternoon, while they were decorating the small Christmas tree, Sophia asked, "Did you like Christmas before?" Clara thought for a few seconds before answering. "I did, but I thought it needed to be perfect." Sophia furrowed her brow. "Perfect is tiring." Clara smiled. The simplicity of that sentence carried a truth it had taken her years to understand. The tree was crooked. Some lights didn't work. But at the end, Clara noticed something different. She didn't feel the urge to fix everything. For the first time, she didn't try to control the moment. Helena watched from a distance, respecting Clara's pace. There was no pressure. There were no demands. Only coexistence. At night, alone in her room, Clara touched the old ornament hanging on the shelf. She remembered Miguel's phrase, "A princess Christmas doesn't need luxury." Perhaps, she thought, the real luxury was being able to stay, to be able to try, to be able to make mistakes without leaving. Christmas Eve arrived without fanfare. There was no grand preparation. The food was simple, the table small, the lights few, but there was something different in the air, a good stillness, the kind that doesn't ask for silence, only presence. Sophia appeared in the living room wearing a crown made of golden paper, cut out by hand. She walked as if she were carrying an important secret. "Today is a princess Christmas," she announced seriously. Clara felt her chest tighten. Not with sadness, with recognition. She understood, in that instant, that the word princess didn't speak of castles. It spoke of dignity, of care, of someone who, even when hurt, chooses not to harden. They sat at the table. They ate slowly. They talked little. But the little was true. Clara looked around. The house, once empty, was now breathing. Not like before. Not as she had imagined. But in the way that was possible. As the night moved on and the lights blinked for the last time, Clara closed her eyes for a moment. Not to run from the past, but to thank it, because it had brought her here. She understood finally that a princess Christmas is not one that saves someone from the outside. It is one in which someone chooses to save what still exists inside. And on that simple, imperfect, and deeply human Christmas, Clara didn't get a perfect ending. She gained something greater, the courage to continue. And you, who have watched until now, who are living your own silent and challenging Christmases, allow yourself to feel, allow yourself to start over. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and leave your comment below. Share how you transform your difficult days into moments of hope, because every story deserves to be heard, and every heart deserves to remember that there is still light.